Beautiful summer night. A team coming home following their first win of the season. Confidence as high as it can be for a team that is 1-7 on the year, countered by a 5-3 team reeling following 2 straight losses, including being shut out before a bye week. Trey Ford and the Edmonton Elks, they returned to Commonwealth Stadium following their rushing explosion last week as they look to begin a winning streak. The team in their way, it's the hungry and angry BC Lions. Elks Lions, it's Sunday Night Football in the Canadian Football League, but first, this is the Green and Gold Kickoff Show live on Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton sports. Matt Iwanyk, Jay Milne with you here. For those listening on EdmontonSportsTalk.com, tune in iHeartRadio as well as those watching on YouTube. Your thoughts always going to be welcome. 780-218-9999. That is the Paris Jewelers inbox. Or you can jump into the nasty chat on YouTube. We are live at Central Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, where every day is game day just off of Fort Road. Let's jump into the Edmonton Elks starting lineup as they go up against the BC Lions. Trey Ford once again getting the start at QB. The men protect him from left to right. Ivy, Foucault, Cordy, Richards, and Boyko. Leak is the running back. There is no fullback on their depth chart going into this game. The receiving core, Lewis, Gittins Jr., Mayala, Jones, and Mitchell. Defensively on the D-line, Taylor, Curtis, Oakman, and Brown. Niles Morgan leads the way in the middle linebacker spot. The other 2 linebackers, Anderson and Moncrief. And the secondary, Gray, Bratton, Purifoy, Jackson, and Bydom. Beatty, Kicks, Julian punts. And we've seen a mix of, last week we saw Dylan Mitchell return some kicks. So there's no real, I think, with Leak being the running back, definitive returner necessarily for the Edmonton Elks. Let's get to the injury report. Mr. Milne.
Kevin Brown is still out, same as last week. But, I mean, we had Justin Rankin come in and impose himself last week. So hopefully that continues. Hunter Stewart is in on the O-line, and interesting to see that this is the first game this year that Edmonton has started, or not started, but rather dressed 7 offensive linemen. Usually they only have the 1 backup. Today they have 2. Jacob Plamondon, you said there is no fullback listed on the depth chart. That is why, because Plamondon is out, and that is it's significant. He's not a name, top of name player for Edmonton, but he is a big part of their special teams, a big part of their short yardage. So that's going to hurt. Plamondon is out. That's all. That's really it. There's not too many changes. Hergy Mayal was also cleared. He was having a little bit of an issue with his foot, but he is in your lineup.
One of the big players coming into the lineup, it is Zach Mathis. He is the wide receiver that Chris Jones used a first-round pick on in the supplemental draft. I don't know if we'll see a lot of him, but they don't have a first-round pick, and right now that would be the number 1 pick in the CFL draft next year. So we'll see if this is his first time he's made the active roster. We'll see if he actually indeed plays and if we see anything from him offensively. Let's take a look at the BC Lions, who are the opponents for the Edmonton Elks tonight. No Vernon Adams Jr., as he got banged up in their game against Winnipeg just a couple weeks ago. William Stanback, he's their lead running back. They also got a pretty strong receiving core, including the guy who leads the Canadian Football League in receiving. That's Justin McInnes, but they also got Alexander Hollins and Keon Hatcher, who just came back from injury in that game against Winnipeg. And defensively, Ben Hladek, he is their middle linebacker. Niles Morgan this season, he's number 1 when it comes to tackles of anyone defensively in the Canadian Football League. I don't know where I put my – there's my depth chart. He's got 56 tackles in 8 games. Well, Glenn Hladek, he's played in 7 games, but he's got 49 tackles. He's 5th in the Canadian Football League. So a top player right there, and also a Canadian, which is always fun to see. When a Canadian is doing some really good things.
Playing lights out as well.
On the show today, actually, weather firstly, if you are heading down to Commonwealth Stadium, 28 degrees at kickoff is what is expected. There is a wind looking like 20 kilometers an hour coming throughout that game, so we'll see if that impacts at all. By the time the game ends, it'll be 24 degrees, so it's going to stay very nice out at Commonwealth Stadium, one of the few games this season where we're going in just from the start of the day through to kickoff, through to the end of the game. We're seeing some nice weather, so I'm glad to see the Edmonton Elks getting that because they need that as they try to turn this franchise around and try to get more fans back to Commonwealth Stadium. And to do that, you got to win football games. But when you have an outdoor facility, it always helps when you have nice weather. To come on the show today, we'll get to our 3 stories of the game. Keys to an Elks victory, our cool bet props of the game. We'll hear from the interim head coach of the Edmonton Elks, that is Jarious Jackson. Momentarily, we'll get to the question of the show. But we are at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, where today the game day special, as it is every Elks game day, it is the cheese and jalapeno smoky with waffle fries. You also got the 6 o'clocker lager and the game day draft on special. And Sundays, it is the surf and turf. That's their daily special here at Century Casino, which we had the last Sunday that they played a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it was lovely.
It was great. You can't go wrong at Century Casino. And
well, especially when your parents pay for it.
Yeah, that was
That
nice.
helped.
That was nice. And it's also a great spot to come if you want to get to Commonwealth for the game. You can come on down here, grab a bite here at Century Casino, go play a little bit of the games, and then walk down to the LRT, take the LRT down to the stadium, come back, play some games, watch us do the post-game show. What a wonderful day that you could have with that. And I'm already up when it comes to the ponies.
Well, I was going to say, it's a great place to come and bet some gray horses, as one Matthew Iwanyk did just before this show went to air.
Saratoga, baby.
Cashing in on a 25-1 horse. We call that a long shot.
Well, it was a place. Wasn't anything major, but it's a win. And my winning ticket is right here, and we'll see what I can get this to go up to throughout the game today.
We're going to try to turn this into $1 million.
Wow.
Bit by bit. I mean, hey.
You just go at it slowly. You just pick it apart. It's like what you want from an offense often. You don't need just the big play.
That's right.
It'd be nice. Sometimes you just want to pick apart the
consistency.
Defense. Drive down the field. Keep the defense off.
Funny. What a segue.
And that's the way you go about it. So we'll see what can happen today. And that actually is a lot of fun when you're watching the football game and then the ponies are just right there. You don't have to pay attention to the ponies really.
No, it's a beautiful place to be. Just horses running.
You just keep looking at when do they minutes to post, and then when post happens, that's the only time you need to tune in for that.
It is really a lazy man's sport.
And this spot, like you get all these TVs watching the sports, and then you got the ponies to the side. It is a great way to spend a wonderful afternoon or an evening. Let's get to the question of the show. Have the Elks turned the corner this season? Yes, because they're led by Trey Ford. I couldn't add that in my Twitter poll, so I just have led by Trey Ford. No, it's only one win. But, man, was it a fun win last week. Jay, have the Edmonton Elks turned their season around yet?
Hell no. No, I don't think so. I believe it was a great win. It was fantastic. It was exciting. It was a different brand of football than Edmonton fans have seen all year round. But the defense played well. Special teams played well. But that hasn't happened once in their 0-7 start. So, no, the Elks have not turned it around. I think if they can turn, you could say every game going forward is a must-win game. Obviously, there's some chances here. Like you have a chance tonight pick off a 5-3 team and really tighten things up and start keeping that tightening pressure on a team that's coming in to your stadium without arguably the best quarterback in the CFL in Vernon Adams Jr. So, no, I don't think they've turned it around. Can they turn it around and keep turning it around? Yes, with a victory today. I don't care if it's by 1 point or by 100 points. It's going to be a W. And if they could do that, that would help, build those bricks you need to start actually mounting a comeback in the season.
Yeah, I'm at the point, if I'm voting on this, I did it, and I voted the wrong way. I just wanted to see the results, so I picked yes.
Right.
I would stick with no, it's only one win. But for me, that could change once this game's over.
I agree.
If they win today, then to me, their season's been turned around because they get Hamilton next week. Hamilton's a bit of a mess. They're benching Bo Levi. They're going with Taylor Powell. Already announced for next week they're going with Powell. Yeah.
Wow.
Scott Milanovich didn't waste any time announcing who his starter is going to be next week here out in Hamilton as they take on the Ticats. And, there's a path there for 3 straight victories.
There is. There's been a path all year.
But they have that first win, and I'm waiting.
Right.
If you go get BC, I feel like this team's going to, what I would expect of how they beat BC, you're going to be feeling really good going against the Hamilton Tiger Cats that they would be the favorites going into that one and winning it. The Elks, for most of this week, were the favorite of this game. You saw the line beforehand. You were looking at it. The Elks are now +1 underdogs, but all week they were -1. And that line opened up at -1 for Edmonton, and the money line was -110 for both teams. It was like a virtual
It still is minus on the money line as well. I was just surprised to see that, given that Dolagala is the starter, and coming off a pretty impressive win for Edmonton. But there's so many positives to talk about from last week that you just hope that they can. And we talked about it a bit before too. Is carrying over from that game and expecting them to do the same thing, I think that would be, the wrong thing to do. That would be hard to expect. If they do, great, all the credit in the world. But, 550 net yards of offense last week. That is the most the Elks have had in 5 years.
June 2019.
276 rushing yards is the most since 2014, Matty.
Mm-hmm.
That's big. Those are big numbers. Now, if you can get half or 3/4 of that, I think you can put together another win. But that's a tall tale to ask for sure.
Well, that transitions into the three stories of this game here on the Green and Gold Kickoff Show. Matt Iwanyk, Jay Milne with you here. As the Elks getting to take on the Lions at 5 o'clock down at Commonwealth Stadium. The offense. Can they replicate that? Can they find part 2, Act 2 of what we saw last week? You just threw out the numbers. Overall offense.
I see you
the numbers
with those
rushing.
written down.
I had those written down there.
I had them written down here just so you know. I'm not cheating off your notes, okay?
No, I know where you got those from. I know you didn't do the full research, just like I didn't do the full research for that, so I can't get upset.
Okay.
But this was also like they scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. When they needed to finish the game off, they put the foot on the throat, and then they didn't let go. They kept pushing down and putting more pressure. To what you just said, like 3 quarters, it's going to be hard to get another 500 yards of offense. It's going to be, I think, harder to do another 270 yards of rushing. I'd say probably 500 more so than the 270 because that is absolutely ridiculous. But it's the offense that we've seen the Elks have over the last 5 quarters, really, with Trey Ford. Is that who they are? Or is that just they caught the Riders at the right time, they caught the Riders with injuries, and there was no tape at the very least on Trey Ford for this season, and the Hamilton game was fourth quarter, it was garbage time? Or is this...
Clearly not.
Well, or is this a team that is actually just... We're going to be watching an offense that's closer to what we saw last week against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Because, the one thing Trey Ford does bring to an offense is he opens up that run. It's his rushing legs that aren't necessarily the big things. It's the threat of that opens it up. We saw it with Javon Leake last week. We saw it with Kevin Brown last year. Chris Morris, head coach of the University of Alberta Golden Bears, and alum of the Double E, he was talking about how the defensive line with Trey Ford, they don't have to just focus. They don't have to just come in on the quarterback and focus. They have to. How did he word it perfectly?
Well, they have to contain. They can't just pin their ears back and go. They have to be aware that Trey Ford is the one with the ball, and that's the complete opposite, which we're going to get to in their second question.
So they can't be as aggressive.
They can't be.
They have to hold back a little bit, and that's what opens up everything else for this Elks offense.
You have to rush more conservatively with your head up instead of pinning your ears back, because if you get to that point, the point where you rush around the outside of the offensive tackle and meet at the quarterback, and the quarterback standing there like a McLeod Bethel Thompson would be, or certainly like a Jake Dolagala is going to be tonight, pocket passers, immobile guys, that's how you rush those guys. When Trey Ford can escape the pocket up the middle, out the outsides, you can't just pin your ears back and go. So, yes, that does put the opposing defense on tilt. It does make it harder for them, as we saw last week. So, no, I don't think that's a one-off. I don't think it was garbage time against Hamilton. I went back because, you send these notes or these questions so you can dive into it a bit, right? I went back and I looked. Last game, or I guess for the entirety of last game, that was Trey Ford's first start this year. 7 of Edmonton's receivers had 2 or more receptions, clearly spreading the ball around, getting a lot of other players involved. The running backs, the tandem of Justin Rankin and Javon Leake, Leak had 22 carries. 22 carries. The second most carries that we've seen was in week 8, and that was with 14. So this is a whole third extra, an extra 33% of run plays. We've been asking for that all season, because now you can see now that and you can say, and I'll say that that's the Trey Ford difference, is that you're going to have those holes open up for a Leak or a Rankin because the defense is a little bit more tentative. And I will say, I was at the Golden Bears Alumni Golf Tournament this week. I talked to some people that are close with the team, and particularly talked about the running game. And this is a different blocking scheme for these guys up front, where Javon Leak now, if they give him a crease, he can hit it and he can score. I mean, he had the longest run of the CFL this year with 67 yards for a touchdown. That was the longest run in the CFL. The Elks haven't seen half of that. And Javon Leak, speaking of Javon Leak, and if they can keep this going, that is the question. He had 169 yards.
Touchdown.
That's 3 yards fewer than his all 7 games combined before, which was 172. So he almost rushed for his season totals last week. So, yes, there's a Trey Ford difference. There's a play-calling difference. So can they replicate it? I think they can. Maybe not to that explosive nature, but I certainly think they can. Absolutely. And if they do, they'll continue to win.
Well, yeah, it's the thing about Javon Leak, too. We didn't see him much as a running back. Like, his highest total of his career was 2 weekends ago, where I think it was 55 yards. Last week, 169. Prior to that, he had never hit 20 yards rushing in a game. Between here and Toronto, he just wasn't ever given really the ball. And, at the start of the year, he was given a couple of opportunities. He put the ball on the turf, which wasn't good.
Yeah.
This week, or last week, he was given the spot of, you're the guy. Kevin Brown's hurt, football, next man up. And he no pun intended, literally ran with that role.
Yep.
And we saw also the Elks post the
fastest
speed
man,
that he had. He was the fastest guy in both sides of the border, NFL, CFL, from last season and this season, which is that burst that he had. That in itself is also another threat. And it's not just like, here's a running back that can break one. Here's a running back that if he has that open field, he's gone because he's got that. And then, the quarterback that the Elks have, he also has that speed, too, with it. He's not just a mobile quarterback. He's such a quick quarterback with it as well that if you're the BC Lions, it's very tough to defend. That's it. I couldn't imagine being the defensive coordinator trying to plan for all of this because even in the Elks' victory last week, Tevin Jones had a great game in his first game with the Edmonton Elks. But the top guys, they didn't really do much. And that's the thing that if a Geno gets going, a Geno Lewis gets going, if a Dylan Mitchell could get back to what he was doing at the start of the season, and I'll even throw in Curly Gittins here, what else could this offense turn into? Last week, Eugene Lewis, only 2 catches, 41 yards. Dylan Mitchell, only 2 catches for 15. Gittins, 2 for 11. That's not a lot. If you also now start connecting a little bit more with those guys, and you have a running attack, and you got a quarterback that's the threat that Trey Ford is, this is a very difficult offense to have to defend against. And I don't think there's a defense out there that's fully prepared to deal with all of that at all times. Yeah, can you stall them at times 100%? We saw in the third quarter last week. Now, some of that was the Elks themselves weren't exactly being as aggressive. But I don't think you can contain them through 4 quarters.
Well, and not only does BC have the week to prep, but so does Edmonton.
Yes.
To prep and change their rushing attack and their lanes and what, positions that they're going to try and exploit. But, yeah, Javon Leak, I mean, if he gets a crease, we said it last game when we were sitting here, he'd be 3 yards past the interior. He's gone. Nobody's touching him.
Nope.
I mean, he would literally get a speeding ticket in a school zone. He topped out at 35.8 kilometers an hour. That is that's just incredible speed. And so, yes, good on, we've said we've had some inconsistency from Jarious Jackson this year.
Yeah.
In things he's said. Good for him, good for that team, good for everybody involved with that offense to exploit a guy like Javon Leak and welcome him to the league that way, because that was incredible. But, Trey Ford also had a pretty strong game. He completed 18 of 22, which is 82%. That's his second best completion percentage of his career, albeit young. But another point, too, is The first 6 games that Edmonton had, they scrambled the ball 6 times. Like McLeod, Bethel,
The
Thompson
QBs.
took off and scrambled. In 1 game and a quarter, you could say, that's already at 8. So there is a difference. Trey Ford using his legs is obviously part of their offense.
Well, and yeah, like there was the parts though. Like, but last week there weren't really design runs for Trey Ford.
No,
it was like the one of them I recall was he saw the blitz from the outside and he ended up just spinning away and then he rushed for a big gain.
Yeah,
that's the stuff you get from Trey Ford that you don't get with a Taylor Well, actually, you got a little bit of that Taylor Cornelius when he wanted to use his legs.
He was surprisingly
you don't get that
a good
with
runner.
McLeod Bethel Thompson. He didn't use it enough. It frustrated the heck out of me because the more he used his legs, the better that Elks offense was. The Wolf into the Parish Jewelers inbox 780-218-9999. I believe if they come out with a win, it just means they're headed in the right direction. Still got a long way to go. Need the offensive line to find their system and for the defense to find their consistent rhythm. Scalding Gord, LTE can run that fast. He just doesn't want to make Maddie feel bad. Are we talking about he could run Javon Leake fast? No chance.
Not a chance.
He's not faster than me. Surveyor Brett posted a picture of Jake Bullen Moss like in a shock face, and he like captioned it with Lieutenant Eric beats Matt at Riverhawks run or something. And I was like, yeah, it would be a shock. I'm the favorite going in. It's not even a question. That's why there'd be the shock face on that, because I'm going to win.
There's only one way to put this to bed, right?
Well, we're apparently doing it next year.
I
believe that. So he conceded the 400. I can maybe get him, but I think I can maybe get Sean Bell in a 200 meter.
You could get Sean Bell in a 100 meter.
No.
Yes.
Him and Cass both think that it's I don't have the quick explosion.
Neither does he anymore. Trust me.
He still had it.
I don't care. That is a big
I don't
man.
think I beat him in 100, but I think I can get him in a 2.
What?
I think I could catch him in the 2. I get him in 4.
I think you're selling yourself short. But like I said, there's only one
somebody
way
actually
to do
believes with me.
No, I think
you believe in me?
Yeah, I don't know if you'd get Pat. I don't know if you'd beat me.
In a 2?
In 100.
No, I'm not I wouldn't say I would ever be easily 100 necessarily. Although I think I could.
I think you'd
100
sneaky fast.
against you?
Sneaky fast, you would be.
I'd catch you in 100.
Catch me?
Yeah. I'm not going to have the burst right off the line, but I'll get everything else.
God,
my 700 or my 70 meters is going to be better than everyone else's hundreds in that sense.
What are you going to get gassed? Are you going to run out?
No, like the first 30 don't matter to me. It's going to be that final 70. I'm going to dominate.
I don't know. Like I said, there's really only one way to do this properly and do it justice. And if you're listening, if you're in the nasty chat, smash that thumbs up. Apparently, I'm also in a competition to get to 1,000 followers on Twitter.
Against who?
YouTube Trev. So if you're, I've got him by a little bit right now, but he's been pumping it on the morning show, so I think he's been getting a lot more likes.
He's got 725.
Yeah. So Jason Milne, at Jason Milne on Twitter.
824. 824.
So I got him by 99?
824, 725, yes.
All right, well.
You got to grow that.
I got to grow that.
We also need to time's running out.
Why? What's going on?
We have till September 7th, I think. No, is it less? September 5th. Maybe September 4th. I'm going to say September 4th, the day after Labor Day.
Okay.
We're at 9,624 subs on YouTube. We want the 10.
Oh, we want that 10.
376 away.
Oh, come on.
From that. So
and
if you haven't hit the subscribe button on our YouTube, please click that subscribe button, because we'd love to get to 10,000 after, before 1 year's up of Edmonton Sports Talk. This is the Green and Gold Kickoff Show. Matt Iwanyk, Jay Milne with you live at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. Let's get to our second story of this game. And it is looking at the other side of this game and the other team, which is the BC Lions. No Vernon Adams Jr., as he is week to week. Jake Dolegala getting the start last season for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. He played in 13 games. He had 2,641 yards. He was 11 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. He will now take the keys to this car that is the BC Lions defense, or offense, I should say, which is number 2 in the Canadian Football League coming into this week. Do you know number 1 is?
Offense?
Yeah. Based on yards.
Based on yards?
Yeah.
Montreal?
Hamilton,
yeah. And
it's
that's
so
what
weird.
You were saying that they've already announced that Bo Levi's out, and
yeah.
I mean 2 weeks ago that guy torched the Elks for 5 touchdowns.
He was pulled yesterday.
It's funny how that changes.
But, the Hamilton, weirdly enough, number 1 offense in the Canadian Football League. Maybe that drops after this week. But the BC Lions are number 2. And the weapons that Jake Dolegala has, we mentioned at the start, you got Justin McInnis, who's the leading receiver. You got Alex Hollins, who's a top receiver. You got Keon Hatcher, who's now back from injury. And you got William Stanback as the running back. You're the Edmonton Elks. Are you looking at this blood and water, or do you come in feeling a little respecting this individual a little bit because of the weapons he has? Because that's the thing to me. He wasn't bad last year with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. The receivers that he had in Saskatchewan weren't that good. He did not have Justin McInnis. He did not have Alex Hollins. He didn't have a Keon Hatcher. He didn't have as good as receivers there. That I'm cautious about this one because I think he could come out and he could light up this Elks defense a little bit that have been lit up quite a bit throughout this season. Where are you at with Jake Dolegala starting?
I don't know that he can light up, as questionable as the Elks secondary has been throughout the first 9 weeks of the CFL season. I just feel as though they're going to have to really run the ball tonight. Are the BC Lions?
BC
and limit Dolegala's ability to manipulate the game for better or for worse. He's got an all-time record of 2-8. He's not that consistent. He's, and I mean, you're bouncing around, you're playing in different teams, but he is also a massive man. He's 6'7", he's 225 pounds. He is a mobile. He will not beat you with his legs. So to me, like they did last week, to get, and disrupt the passing game of Saskatchewan, get in there and disrupt him if he is throwing the ball back. Get them into second and long situations, so that would mean shutting down the run on first down, expecting a run-heavy first down game plan from BC tonight, and then shutting him down and pinning your ears back. That, what we talked about with Trey and his elusiveness, and you have to be cautious with your rush. That's the exact opposite tonight for Edmonton. They can pin their ears back and race to the quarterback. And if they can do that, I think if Trey and the offense can put together a relatively simple game, 20-some points, 400-some, low 400 yards in total offense, running the ball 20 times or more, and the defense can show up, that would be – but I don't think Jake Dolegala is going to kill Edmonton with his arm tonight.
And I think he could. I do. I'm worried about the weapons that he has because last year he played the Edmonton once, 213 yards, so didn't kill them numbers-wise passing, but he threw for 3 touchdowns and had a pick in that game. Mm-hmm. This is a guy last year in 5 games, he threw for 2 touchdowns or more. This guy, when he throws touchdowns in a game, it's 2 or more. Otherwise, he doesn't throw a touchdown in the game. He doesn't do just like 1 touchdown generally. And again, I go back to Saskatchewan last year, and the receiving corps wasn't there. They tried a lot of different things, different players. They didn't have a good receiving corps, and now you get the best receiver in the Canadian Football League. You get another top one in Hollins, and you get a Keon Hatcher who, usually, when healthy, is one of the top receivers in the Canadian Football League. The only concern I would have if I was a Lions fan is the game we saw against Winnipeg with Vernon Adams playing in it. They got shut out.
Well,
they were on the field for 18 minutes or whatever it was in that football game, which is like historically low, like the lowest time of possession a team has had in the CFL. I wonder if having too many receivers messed up with their flow because they brought in Keon Hatcher, and Justin McInnis had only a couple targets. He didn't even have a catch in that football game. I wonder if that's the thing. Like, you want to spread the ball out if you're a quarterback, and does Jake Dolegala have those guys he knows he can connect with, or is he going to try to not get them all pissed off and make sure, okay, I need to get McInnis the ball, Hatcher the ball, and Hollins the ball. I got to spread it out. And I'm just sometimes you add that extra guy and it messes with things, as opposed to a couple times this season BC's been good because Vernon Adams saw McInnis doing unbelievable and just kept throwing to him. Yeah. And McInnis was catching the football, and he didn't be like, well, I'm going to switch away because I got to get this guy some receiving yards. I wonder if having just that extra guy might hurt. But I don't look at Jake Dolegala and go, this is going to be an easy victory for the Edmonton Elks. I look at this. It is not VA, so the Elks get an advantage there. But this is a guy I could see kind of torching this secondary if he gets going because of what we've seen from the Elks defense this season.
and the receivers that Jake Dolegala does have. The other thing I will quickly add to that, we will get to our cool bet props of the game because you would take the opposite, I think, with this one. But Jake Dolegala over 1.5 touchdown passes tonight is plus money, plus 105. Him scoring throwing for 2 touchdowns. I know we're talking Elks and we're in Edmonton and pro Elks. I think he's getting 2 touchdown passes tonight.
Well, yes, I would be more optimistic with your take if their offensive line wasn't crippled. They're down 3 starters on that offensive line from the start of the year. So their offensive line is giving up a lot of pressure, a lot of sacks in recent weeks, and I think that's what's led to seeing the decline of the BC Lions play. So with Dolegala in there, who can't really move, I was looking on CoolBet for a sack prop to go 3 or more sacks or something like that, or over 2.5 sacks. I would take that all day in tonight's game because that offensive line is rather Swiss cheese-ish at the moment. So pin your ears back, go. And credits to where it's due. The Elks have really brought back their turnover ratio, the consistent making kicks that he should be making. So that's really, and I think they have a chance. Unless they get in their own way, I think they have a chance. And I mean, that says a lot coming in as the 5-3 Lions come in, who sit atop or tied for first place in the CFL West. But I think they have a chance to have all 3 facets playing very well tonight.
BC Lions, where I also am fearful of them for the Elks, they're a pissed-off team. They've lost 2 games. They lost to Calgary, had a bye week, and they got shut out against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at the start of last week. They're going to be pissed off. They're going to be hungry, and that's where I think the offense. I know it's Jake Dolegala, but they're going to want to show something to not just to the league, to themselves again, because they were this best offense, and now they don't want to just all of a sudden be 5-4.
He's a professional quarterback too, is Jake Dolegala. I'm just saying, if you're not, it seems like the Elks have found out who their guy is in Trey Ford. I don't know that Jake Dolegala is the answer in BC long term, but
maybe it's the guy that got released today.
Nathan Rourke
got released by the Atlanta Falcons.
Saw that coming.
I didn't see it this soon.
I couldn't believe they picked him up in the first place. Why would they pick him up? They have Penix, Cousins, and Taylor Heineke. What do you need him for? Heineke's the third string.
Well, maybe they thought we'd have somebody instead of Heineke. I guess. It's just one of those types of things. And he's your boy, isn't he?
He was my boy. I actually really like Taylor Heineke. I like the way he plays.
Oh, he almost won that playoff game against the Bucs.
He's a tough bugger.
It was a lot of fun to watch that game. It's one of those, though, where does he land now? I thought it would be longer, and we'll see. Because I still think he's a BC Lion. I don't see him playing for anyone else.
Well, Derek Knight disagrees with you in the nasty chat. He says, Rourke to the Stamps 2025. Go Stamps, go.
They'd be smart. Most teams would be smart to go get Nathan Rourke. The one concern I'd have about bringing in Nathan Rourke is the money. I don't think it makes sense for the Elks to do it because you're going to have to commit so much money, and they have to fix some other spots.
No.
Other teams,
if you're going with Trey, you're going with Trey.
I know, but other teams, you could fit a big contract of Nathan Rourke in because you've got some other players in other spots. I don't see how Nathan Rourke turns down the BC Lions. I don't think he turns down Doman. But they got the Grey Cup this year. And they got VA, who's playing well this year. And that's where
VA's probably going to be back next week.
I know. And that's where, can you bring him?
That's why it's important for the Elks to get this game tonight.
For this one.
Because then they'd have 1-1.
Well, let's get into the third storyline of this game, which is hunt for the playoffs. The hunt is back on for the Edmonton Elks, at least in my eyes it is, because we got to start with this one. Before a big hitter, Adams will be traded. Come on, guys. The thing is, I don't know if you're messing with the chemistry that soon when he's leading your team to a Grey Cup potentially right now. I see it for next year. I think VA gets traded in the offseason, and Nathan Rourke takes over next year.
You do not. That's not. They would not do that.
What?
Trade VA for Nathan Rourke.
For 2025, 100% they will.
You think so?
100%.
VA's proven himself, man.
Yeah, so is Nathan Rourke's a bit younger.
I know, but he
younger.
left you.
Yeah,
he's gone. He's not a BC Lion.
And then he comes back.
Not on my team.
No, they absolutely will move on from VA.
to bring in Nathan Rourke.
Okay.
I will stand by that. But I just don't think they would do that during this season when they are the home of the Grey Cup, and he's been doing some good things with that team. But for the Edmonton Elks, a win today, it puts them with 2 wins. They sit then 2 points back of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for 4th in the division. They would be 4 points back of the Calgary Stampeders for 3rd in the division, which is also a playoff spot. The path is there. The path is starting to open up. I see it. A couple weeks ago,
tonight, and that's
it starts and ends with tonight.
Can't say that enough.
They lose tonight, I don't feel good now.
If they can
anymore.
go to 2-7, and they're two games back of Winnipeg, or 1 game back of Winnipeg, who they play twice upcoming.
They'll have Winnipeg
2
twice,
games
Calgary
back
3 times. Yes,
and they play Calgary 3 times. You're going to have 4-point games.
Yeah.
This is a 4-point game, another 4-point game. If they can win, I mean, then you knock down BC to 5-4 as well.
Well, they go to 5-4. Saskatchewan's 5-3-1. They're not looking good right now. They're banged up as heck. They're getting all sorts of injuries. The whole West is kind of opening up quite a bit here.
It is.
But you got to go get the wins, and that's where these 2 weeks, you go get BC, you get Hamilton, and then you could just focus on those Calgary and Winnipeg games largely.
You go get BC tonight. I'm happy. I'm a satisfied Edmonton Elks fan. Not necessarily looking forward to next week in Hamilton, but that would be another one. Yes, you could say, but it starts tonight. Getting yourself off the schneid and picking up 2 consecutive wins in a row, that's going to show a lot about this team and what to expect going forward.
Yeah,
but there is a path. I don't think the crossovers is as strong as I might have wanted it to be.
Well, Edmonton Elks sits, if they win today,
3 games back.
3.5 games back because they have to be better than Toronto.
That's right.
They'd have to have that extra win or point in there in some way, shape, or form. That's a lot of ground to make up.
I still don't believe in Toronto. I don't know.
I don't either, but it's a big gap that the Edmonton Elks face on that one. And to me, I'm looking at the Calgary because the Elks also play the Stamps 3 times. Like, you go win those 3 games, which is going to be tough to do. You get the season sweep of 3 games, and you go split Winnipeg. Or if you sweep Winnipeg and you take 2 of 3 against Calgary.
Well, it's there. It's available.
Right there, all of a sudden, the Elks are a point back, like 2 points back or tied or something, and you win the season series and all that, so you got the tiebreakers. But you also need to win a few other games. Winnipeg scares me just because their defense is starting to pick it up.
Yeah, Winnipeg scares me more than Calgary.
They've gotten 6 points allowed in 2 games combined. The last 2 games combined, they've allowed the defense 6 points. It was special teams and offense that has given up some other points, but they've, as a defensive unit, 6 points through 2 games. They are really turning it around there. I'm not still sold that Zach Collaros has figured it out again. I know he doesn't have Dalton Schoen. I know he doesn't have Kenny Lawler. Kenny Lawler's getting close to being ready to come back. But that O-line isn't as strong as it once was. They lost 2 guys going into this season. So you lose 40% of your line. You're going to struggle with that. So I'm not as worried about when the Elks go take on the Bombers, as of right now, which will be after the Labor Day series, I feel good about those games for the Elks. Winnipeg should be the favorite in them at this moment. But if we could see that Elks team we've seen over the last 5 quarters, defensively and offensively, there's not a lot of teams right now that I would be scared of if I was the Elks. Well, Montreal would be one of those teams.
Matty, but you got to look back into this how they got to 0-7. Those were some very winnable games as well. Yeah. I don't think this team has been scared of any opponent this year. They just needed the tweak that was the Trey Ford difference, and it looks like it's paying dividends right now. And if they can start building something and put something together, then you go into Labor Day at the start of September, and maybe you're close or a game back of Calgary. And those games, it hasn't been that way in a while. And Edmonton has not had the greatest success in that series over the past, say, decade. So it'd be nice to have some stink on those games and see what Edmonton can do.
In the Paris Jewelers inbox, Stamp Hater, Dolagala struggled in Saskatchewan whenever the other team had any sort of pressure. Elks need a win along the offensive and defensive lines. Negate what the Lions have at receiver that way. And Ethan from Airdrie, hey boys, with 2 games versus Winnipeg and 3 versus Calgary, what will their record be in those 5 games, in your opinion? As of right now, if I had to guess what it will be,
3-2.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They'll split the Labor Day. they'll split the Winnipeg, and then they'll win the last Calgary.
But 3-2,
But they didn't make enough ground. You don't make enough ground at that point.
Depends who the three are against, right?
Right, but the way I have it, it'd
Yeah.
be 2 against Calgary, 1 against Winnipeg. You gain 2 points on Calgary. That's it. And you're the exact same against Winnipeg because they won and you won.
Yeah.
That's where they need to go sweep one of those for sure.
4-1 is a different conversation.
4-1 is what they're going to absolutely need.
Yeah.
If they go 3-2, then you got, okay, how are you going to pick up the other wins? And you got BC tonight, okay, you need that. Hamilton next week, yes. You got Montreal after that. I'm not putting that as a win. But they do have Saskatchewan and Toronto as well later this season. They need win. They need to take those games, especially if you're going to go 3-2 against Winnipeg and Calgary. If you go 3-2 there, you win those 2 games. That puts you at 5 wins. You have a win right now, which is 6 wins. You win today. You win next week against Hamilton. Was that 8 wins?
Yeah, I mean
that gets you your bet. That gets VR his bet of over 6.5 wins this season. Is 8 going to be enough to make the playoffs? That's tough. Last year it was, I think. What did we have last year? Because it was not. The CFL does weird things. Their website stinks. 2023 CFL standings. I Google Live. It was 6-12. 6-12 for the Rough Riders and the Stamps. I don't think 6 wins is getting somebody in the playoffs this year. Maybe 8. Maybe 8. 9's the comfort level. It's a long way to go for the Edmonton Elks.
It's a long way to go for this squad. Starts tonight.
You go win tonight. You go beat Hamilton. It's also a 3-game win streak.
It's not unattainable.
It is not, especially because Jake Dolegala is the starting quarterback, and it's not Vernon Adams Jr., which big hitter in the nasty chat, agreeing with me in the sense that Rourke is not coming this year. They are dumping VA next year. Also says VA is overrated. I won't go that far.
I disagree.
But he has his flaws.
Sure.
And yeah, you're taking Nathan Rourke sells you jerseys. VA doesn't sell you jerseys.
That's true. That's a good point.
Let's get to our cool bet props of the game. I threw out one kind of early. There's a lean, which is against the Elks. So I get that you wouldn't want to do that one, but Jake Dolegala over 1.5 passing yards. This line right now, the Elks are the slightest underdog on money line at -109. BC -111.
Man, there must be a lot of action on that because that's been bouncing around with the odds. Not necessarily the spread, but the odds have been bouncing around even since we started here.
So they've had 147 tickets come in on the Elks and 290 tickets come in on the BC Lions.
Wow.
Oh, what do you mean these aren't real numbers? It's literally saying these aren't real numbers. You got to log in, so I got to log in here and take a look. Is this one going to give me the better real numbers here? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, those weren't real numbers. The Elks are getting 70% of the money. The BC Lions are getting 30% of the money. That's where that's going. The
Makes
Elks,
sense.
though, slight underdogs in this one, +1. This opened up with the Elks as the favorite on the spread at -1. Now the Elks are the +1 underdog. As Huss has said and Dusty says, when you're at a +1, you might as well just take money line.
Yes.
Save that point. Just go to the money line. Props of the game. One I'm just going to throw out there because I know some people will be interested. Trey Ford, his running is set at 50.5 rushing yards. That's the over and under. I don't know if that was your prop of the game, but what's your prop of the game?
No, it's not. It wasn't my prop of the game. I am not selling or sold on Jake Dolegala. I think he is who you think he is. I don't think he's going to beat the Elks with his arm. So I am taking the under on Jake Dolegala passing yards at 259.5. So under 260, let's say, at -110. I don't believe in Jake Dolegala. Now, I do have the dunce hat sitting over at our table, so if I need to wear it after the show, I can always put it on and, make an arse of myself like I normally do. But I just don't see it, Matty. I just don't see it. We're usually not on opposite ends of the spectrum in a take, especially CFL related.
You and I?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not, especially quarterbacks. We're never disagreeing on quarterbacks in the Canadian Football League. My prop of this game, it actually ties into the Cool Bet Lock Shop parlay we did for this week. It's the last leg we need, but it's one that I actually believed in the most when we were building the parlay on the Lock Shop, and that's the over 49 points in this game. One, I think that number is quite low. I think that is a bit of Jake Dolegala effect, that they're not believing in him. But the Edmonton Elks last week by themselves put up 42 points. That means the BC Lions need to score 8 points, and you hit the over type thing if the Elks can do it. The Elks offense is an offense that can move the football with Trey Ford, what we've seen through 5 quarters. I'm guessing that that's going to continue, and I think this is a team that could put 30-plus points up. I also think that the BC Lions are pissed off with the fact that they lost 2 games. I think the BC Lions are extremely pissed off that they got shut out against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and got embarrassed by that. This is a team that's going to come out and score some points themselves. So I think we're in for a high-scoring game. I think defense, the team that makes that one extra defensive play in the fourth quarter is probably going to win this football game.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the defenses are going to be particularly strong on either side. I think the offenses are going to be rolling. That's also why Mr. Lean was, Drake Dolegala over 1.5 TDs at plus money today. I think the over in this game. I think we're going to be seeing a high-scoring game down at Commonwealth Stadium. It's a beautiful night as well.
I think
it's
you're giving Dolegala way too much credit.
It's not Dolegala. It's not like I saw what he did in Saskatchewan, and Stampeder makes a great. If you get the pressure, he does collapse a little bit.
Yeah,
but he's got weapons.
Sure,
that's
great.
The
but
thing.
If you can't deliver the ball to them, who cares?
And if you can deliver the ball to them,
but he hasn't proven he can.
I disagree on that because
and his offensive line is banged up.
I think when you look at last season, half the time he played really well. The other half of the time he played poor.
With a good offensive line.
No, Saskatchewan had an awful offensive line.
I mean starters, not backups across the board.
Yeah, but they were a crappy offensive line anyways, though. They were trash.
For your parlay there, I hope you get to over 49.
Yeah, that's happening.
I do not see them putting up. I see them struggling to get in the end zone.
The BC Lions?
Yes. Somebody asked tonight.
Yeah, well, Sean White's going to kick 7 field goals.
That's what I
That's 21 points right there.
That's what I think. He's going to have a busy night with his leg.
Then Trey Ford will put up 31, and I win the parlay and the over.
But somebody asked earlier in the Nasty Chat, is Stanbeck going to score a touchdown? I think he's one of their only hopes, and you could see it in the odds. He's minus 143.
And the thing is with the BC Lions, they always go away from their run. I think if we were doing BC Lions radio, we'd be saying over the last 2 seasons, why aren't they running more? Why aren't they running more? And I think they're trending away from that a little bit with William Stanbeck, which doesn't make sense because he brought this guy in. Run the damn football.
Well, you say that about this team.
Yeah, I know.
Edmonton. And lo and behold, they go out and run it 22 times. And the 22 rushes didn't even include Trey Ford's rushing attempts. That's strictly running backs.
Our question of the show was: have the Elks turned the corner this season? No is leading the way at 60%, 40%, believing that the Elks already have. I will be a believer that they've turned it around if they get the win today. This is the Green and Gold Kickoff Show. Matt Iwanyk, Jay Milne. We're a little over 15 minutes away from kickoff between the Elks and the Lions down at Commonwealth Stadium. It is the EST crew on TSN if you're not getting down to the game. Dustin Nielsen on the call. Tom Gazzola roaming the sidelines as he's back in the office tomorrow. And then Glenn Suter in the booth with Dustin Nielsen. We will get to our keys to an Edmonton Elks victory, and we will get to Jay's prediction of the game. Let's first, though, hear from – what was that look for?
Oh, no, I just love how you just love to not predict anything.
I predicted horse 8 and 2 were going to place in that Saratoga race, and one of them did it. One of them didn't.
Well, Rain Man, maybe you could
I'm richer for it by $10. By $10. But let's hear from the interim head coach of the Edmonton Elks who spoke with the media earlier this week. That is Jarious Jackson.
It's been a good group all year.
Mm-hmm.
Now to see them here on the back of a win, just tell me about the energy and just the confidence that you're seeing.
You know what? It's the same energy. Same energy has been, even when we're losing, maybe a little bit less pouting, but, same energy that it's always been. And that's, what I like about these guys and like about this group, as I've said before, is no quit in them. They understand that, there's still a glimmer of hope for us. We control our own destiny as of right now, so we're going to keep fighting and plugging away.
I know there's always corrections you want to make, win or lose, but now that you have film to say, look, if you do the right things, this is what happens. How valuable is that as a coach?
It's crucial. I mean, at the end of the day, that was one of the messages I preached to those guys all week last week was the fact that, SAS was the more physical team the first time we played them. I mean, they knocked us around the park pretty much. So I think they took that to heart and, they came out, and I feel like we were definitely the more physical bunch this past weekend.
What allowed you to be so successful on the ground in terms of the rushing game, especially against Saskatchewan, who's been very good against the rush?
Well, Trey was good on first down. He was good on first down, and, when we did hand the ball off to the league, or Rank. They were getting positive yardage, and then a few times there, Trey was able to run around for a little bit. So I felt like, we were able to tire the front out just a little bit. And so then now when we do call the hard runs, our guys up front are able to lean on them a little bit more.
Like the threat of Trey running, how much does that open up things for, in terms of the rushing?
Well, they have to respect it, and that's why I'm always on him about carrying out his fakes, right? Even when it's a hard run and you don't have an RPO attached to it or a sally attached to it, carry out your fake hard, because that split second that you could hold a C-gap or a D-gap defender could be the difference in a guy like Leak taking it to the house. So it's crucial when Trey is a threat to be out there as well on the edge, and they have to account for him.
Has Trey made more of an effort, and we know what he can do on the edges. He's very hard to contain, but to get more vertical if you're going to, because you have the option, you can step up and throw, or you step up and take off.
Well, if you saw, I think it was a deep out route he threw to TJ on the sideline. I thought he did a great job of working up in the pocket. At the end of the game, the touchdown he threw to TJ, I think they were like in an all-out blitz, and he didn't panic. He just kind of drifted and got the ball going. So I definitely saw a lot of improvement, out of him with his pocket awareness and keeping his eyes down the field. And we know he can get on the edges and extend plays and find guys down the field. But to be able to do that from the pocket, I thought that showed a lot of growth out of Trey.
Trey had 7 different players had at least 3 different targets. Was that a process for the offense to try to spread the ball around, or is that just Trey working through his
That's Trey working through his reads, working through his progressions. I mean, if you look all year long, it's been like that. Very seldom here and there we've had a guy that just has exploded in yards more than anybody else in any given game. It may be because we dialed up a specific play and he might have got like 80, 90 yards on a play or something, but then it kind of averages out with his other catches. So we try to spread the ball around the park and not leave it to where it's just 1 or 2 guys always getting receptions.
That was the first time since August of 2019 that this team has had 500 yards of total offense.
Wow.
Scored 40 points in the game.
Wow.
How impressive did that offensive performance feel in the moment, or does it feel even more impressive when you kind of sit back and look at the numbers?
Well, probably sitting back looking at the numbers, because it was pretty tight game up until probably the last, 8 to 10 plays of the game. I think when Leak probably broke 2, and then at the end of the game we were able to get the ball back and we had a short field. And I was just, speaking about the play where Trey stepped up and found TJ on like a little drag route. So, more than anything, I was just proud of the way you seen it in the early first 45, 50 minutes of the game, because we were the more physical bunch, and that's what I love to watch, is when our guys are out there imposing their will on people.
How difficult is it to replicate a performance like that on offense when you have some major chunk plays like a 90-yard pass?
Right. Right. Well, you hope it's like that every week. It may not be like that all the time, but you hope that's the goal is to hopefully have it play out like that every week. But we know there's going to be some tight games. Earlier in the year we've lost 6 or 7 of them by a field goal, so we know there's going to be tight games. But anytime that we can get a comfortable lead and let our defense kind of sit back and play the way they want to, then it's a good day for us.
What do you expect, or does anything change too much with Dolagala at quarterback compared to Vernon Adams?
Nothing at all from our preparation, and that's one of the things I just said. It doesn't matter if they have Vernon playing or whomever. It doesn't matter if Contoy's out. It doesn't matter the guys they have out. They're well coached and they're capable of coming here and winning. They're on a 2-game slide, so I know they're going to be doing everything in their power to try to get a win. So we've got to match their intensity, and we've got to stay with the process of how we prepare to get ready for the game.
And there's Jarious Jackson, interim head coach of the Edmonton Elks, with the media a bit earlier this week as the Elks getting set to take on the Lions down at Commonwealth Stadium. Kickoff minutes away. This is the Green and Gold Kickoff Show. Matt Iwanyk, Jay Milne. Our final minutes with you here before we go and all watch the football game. Jay, you haven't moved at all with your followers on Twitter. I just want to throw that out there.
Well,
still 8:24.
Let's do better. Come on, peeps.
But Trev didn't move at all. So if you're on Twitter and you don't follow Jay, at Jason Milne, or is it is there an underscore there?
No, it's at Jason Milne. And follow Trev, too.
Well,
YouTube_Trev.
Follow him after he gets to 1,000.
That's right.
Once he gets to 1,000, then you can follow Trev.
Big wager on the line.
Let's get to keys to an Elks victory. Jay, what do you got?
I'm going to simplify things and just say tonight is a night that the defense needs to step up and play and take advantage of Dolagala and his inexperience playing at this level. Pin your ears back, get to the quarterback. I hope Jason Shivers has some blitz packages dialed up. Make him uncomfortable. Make him throw errant passes. Take advantage of those errant passes. And look at me. I have confidence now that if the ball is turned over or given back to the Elks offense, that they're actually going to do something with it. So that's my key to the game is defense. Make him uncomfortable. Make Dolagala throw interceptions. Put the ball on the ground. And I feel strongly about if the defense can handle that, I feel the Elks are going to get a win.
Cliche-ish where I'm going, but stay hungry. I'm already.
Fair point.
Well, the question I have is, did they turn the season around already? Have they turned it around? Last week was great. Offensively, over 500 yards, over 200 yards rushing. Those numbers we haven't seen in 5 and 9 years, respectively, or whatever it was.
Been a while.
Defensively, they stepped up in that game for the most part as well. Special teams-wise, did well. This is a team that probably feels good about themselves, but they also have to understand they're still 1-7, and that they still have a lot of work to do. And don't underestimate the BC Lions.
No.
Don't go out there just thinking that this is going to be an easy football game. Look what we've done over the last 5 quarters. We'll just continue that going. You got to stay hungry. If you get a little complacent, if you get a little too high on yourself, I think that's where the BC Lions are going to catch this football team. So for me, it's in this game, I would just want to see them stay hungry and follow the game plan. Don't try to be flashy. Don't try to do the extra thing. The Oilers power play type thing. Just always look for that extra pass. Don't need that. Just go about, do your game plan. Do what you need to do to move the ball down the field and get your touchdowns or stop the BC Lions from doing that. So that's my key to an Elks victory. Stay hungry. VR says, I can't follow Glue Guy twice, so I am unfollowing YouTube Trev right now. As long as you remember to follow him after.
I don't know if that's in the best spirit of Edmonton Sports Talk, but I'll remind you, VR, to follow him back after it's all said and done.
Hashtag Glue Crew, if I'm not mistaken. He was one of the first members of it.
Yeah. He was in early.
Your prediction, Jay, for this game between the Elks and the BC Lions?
34-22 in favor of your home team, Edmonton Elks.
The over hits in that one.
The over hits.
Boom.
I'm counting on 5 field goals and 1 touchdown from BC. I think they're going to struggle to put the ball in the end zone with their offense. Special teams, when you have, Sean White as your kicker, he's going to impose himself on that game. I just don't think it's going to be enough.
That will wrap up the Green and Gold Kickoff Show live from Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge just off of Fort Road, where every day is a game day. We will be back with the post-game show from right here at Century Casino. We're going to go dive in onto their food, which I'm thinking the cheese and jalapeno smoky. There's Elks game day specials every Elks home game here at Century Casino. Thanks to everyone for tuning in to the Green and Gold Kickoff Show here on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tune in iHeartRadio as well as those watching on YouTube. Kickoff coming up in just a few minutes down at Commonwealth Stadium. In the meantime, you enjoy that football game. Thanks for tuning in to the Kickoff Show, and Jay and I will talk to you once it's over.